Hello and welcome to the Oddschecker podcast. This is the Champions Day preview, and I am your host, George Ellick, and I'm joined by two expert guests as we go through the card at Ascot on Saturday. First up, it is, of course, Oddschecker's very own tipster extraordinaire, Andy Holding. Andy, very good as ever to be sharing. I mean, normally I like it when we're sitting opposite each other, but this time, of course, we are sharing a Skype together. How's it all going?
Very well. Yes, this is one of my favourite meetings of the year, back-end stuff. But I always think when I'm looking at meetings like this, once I pay no attention to what's previously gone throughout the year, but I do take a lot of the results with a pinch of salt, and I'm very much looking at a different dynamic really coming into this. I think you need to look outside the box. The obvious doesn't always happen. I think if you're betting a lot of these short price favourites, you're in for a bit of a rude awakening like we have been for previous years. You've only got to look at the results for the sprints in the last 2 or 3 years to tell you that. And there's been plenty of other shocks as well. So I'll be very, very, very doubtful whether I'm going to be putting up many single figure prices horses this weekend. Sorry.
I like the sound of that a lot. Mike Spence joins us as well, professional punter, owner of a few horses around the place as well. Mike, you were meant to join us for the Longchamp Arc preview. You pulled out last minute because of the builders. Then Andy basically went through the card over the 2 days. So, no pressure here.
Yeah, glad I missed it then. I would have been. No, much UK stuff anyway.
Good stuff. How's the kind of the summer been for you?
It's been okay, really. Just in the office as usual. It's felt a bit normal, really. Hasn't been with the racing. Certainly has. It's been very annoying not going racing. BHA aren't doing the best of jobs in my opinion, but that's another story.
Yeah, me and you could probably do another podcast all about whether or not fans should be allowed into sport, not just racing. But we will leave that for another day. Before we get into the racing, just want to point the viewers and the listeners in the direction of the Oddschecker app. It is the best place for the best prices, best bookie offers, free bets, and the very best tipsters around, including, of course, Andy, whose tips you can get straight to the app every single morning around 9 o'clock. If you're listening to this, you can also watch it on YouTube, on the Oddschecker YouTube channel. If you're watching it and you want to listen to it, you can find it on all podcast platforms under the Oddschecker podcast. Before we get into the racing, Andy, just going to come to you first because at least where I am, somewhere in kind of northeast London, it feels like it hasn't stopped raining for about 3 weeks. What do we expect to be the going come Saturday at Ascot?
It's going to have a very autumnal feel to it, like it has done the last few seasons, doesn't it? It's been on the soft side, and I think that's going to play or make a massive impact on where the jockeys decide to race. I think it is going to ride on the slow side. I think it might dry out between now and Saturday. I don't know what Mike's view is, but I've seen the forecast. It's looking dry today as we speak. Outside the window here, it's dry, and I think that's the case in London, unless you're going to tell me anything different. And I think the forecast for tomorrow and Saturday is fairly favourable as well. I think there's a bit of high pressure coming down. So I don't think we're going to get too much around the odd shower. Rogue shower might just develop, maybe along those lines. And it's also interesting as well to point out where they raced last season or in the last few seasons. They've tended to migrate towards that far side rail as well. So the raw meeting on good ground or early season ground, let's say, they've come towards the stand side rail. But during the autumn period and particularly this meeting, if that's anything to go by in the last 3 or 4 years, I've watched a lot of replays. Most of the action, particularly on the straight track, took place middle to far side. So maybe low numbers is what you want to be looking at.
Well, it's music to my ears, Andy, because I'm playing golf about 5 miles down the road from Ascot on Saturday. So glad to hear you say that there's some warm pressure coming in. Let's get into the racing then. And the first race of the day is the Long Distance Cup. And Stradivarius, unsurprisingly, is 10-11 favourite after finishing 7th in the Arc. Search for a Song 6-1. Fajaria Prince 10-1. Dawn Patrol 12-1. And Spanish Mission 16-1. Alongside Broome and Mirando 18-1. Bar 13 Run. All those prices and all the ones I'll be reading out on this show are the best on Oddschecker. Mike, we're going to keep you in the sidelines for another second. We're going to give Andy first run here. Andy, not to drop you in it was pretty much the only thing you said that was that didn't kind of pan out the way you expected in our Longchamp preview. But Stradivarius finished 7th. We thought he was a bit of an each-way certainty on the day. 10-11 here at a course that we know poses no issues whatsoever. You said you're going to be looking to kind of swerve the favourites. Is that the case in this opener?
Yeah, without doubt. Yeah, he's the first one I want to be avoiding. I'm not suggesting for him he can't win, but they're just not my kind of bets. I mean, if you want to be playing him at 4-6, 4-7, or whatever it is, good luck to you. I want to be back in Stradivarius, coming here off the back of confidence boosting wins, not an absolute battering like he got in the Arc. I mean, I can't for 1 minute put my finger on it why he and Enable ran so badly in the Arc. I mean, everyone's put it down to maybe a slightly slow pace, and it suited those that towards the head of the field. But as I said to you in the podcast when I did the Arc preview, he quickened up in 33 and change off a slow pace the time before, so he should have been able to make some kind of inroads into horses that he was entitled to keep up with, and he didn't. So I won't say the alarm bells are ringing, but he's just not in the kind of form coming in here that I want to be backing him. And of course, he got beat when he was in rampant form last year. I think he was 8-13 last year, and he got beat by Kew Gardens. So it's not as if he's unbeatable completely. And he's had his nose rubbed in the sand twice on his last two runs. So in short, I think Stradivarius is a one I'd want to be taking on. And I think there's various horses you can throw into the mix. Search for a Song, of course, last time out was very good, beating a stellar field over in the Curragh. Dermot Wells got a fantastic record in not only this race but at this meeting itself. I think she's a viable each way alternative. But I do like another Irish raider in this as well. I'm definitely going to be putting this up on Saturday. Dawn Patrol, Aidan O'Brien's horse. Of course, Aidan won it last year with a similar type, Kew Gardens. I thought his run in the St Ledger was a very good run. He was dropped out the back from a wide draw. He was last turning in, and albeit he didn't make any inroads into the likes of Galileo Chrome, etc., he's kept on quite well if you watch the video back on him. And that St Ledger form, based on the time figure, has worked out incredibly well. We've already seen Dawn Patrol himself come out and win out of it. Tyson Fury, I think he's another one that's come out and won out of it. So already the race is beginning to take shape. Got a good time figure for him last time out when he beat Barrington Court at the Curragh, proving that he stays 2 miles on soft ground. So I quite like his profile. And obviously Fujiara Pince is another one as well with Ascot form. He'd be a bit more of a player. I think it was a mile 6. I don't think he got home last time over the 2 mile trip against Search for a Song. So I'd have my slight question marks about him. But Dawn Patrol 12-1 as I'm looking at it here. That looks very, very solid on a lightly raced 3-year-old that will stay every yard.
So taking on the jolly there with Dawn Patrol, 12-1 is with 365, Bet Victor, Betway and Boyle Sports. Mike, do you agree with Andy's assertion that Stradivarius is one to take on? And who are you taking him on with if you do?
I agree about the first part. I'm not too sure about the second part, but here's 12-1, so I won't put Andy off. But I think Stradivarius, I don't really want to be with anything that ran on Arc weekend. I think the ground was very soft that day, and I think you'd be better on taking on everything that ran on that weekend. So he'd be a fair lay for me. He was trained for the Arc, and this is, undoubtedly an afterthought this year. His record in this race isn't as good as it could be compared to other races, and he's had a long enough season. I'd be laying him for a fairly good stake, but then I'd be backing 3 against him, which Search for a Song's the obvious one. She should go very well. She's had a longer break after last time. As long as she's in the same form, which she should be, then she'll run very well. I'm not that sure about Dawn Patrol personally. I think the one I like is Sovereign. He's 20-1, I think. Ryan Moore's riding him, which I think is fairly big uptick. His run behind Enable for me in the King George was a massive run. He's a very, very talented horse, and I mean, he obviously gets forgotten because he won that Irish Derby, and everyone thinks it was a fluke. But there was no fluke about his time when he went off too hard in the King George. He was below his best behind Search for a Song, but I'm probably happy to take a chance at 20s about him. I do think he's a very smart horse. I'd be going with Search for a Song and Sovereign, and then Spanish Moon, I think's a useful stayer who isn't quite good enough on what he's done, but I quite like the fact he's improving and lightly raced, and I think for the price that he is as well, I think he's 16-1 best. I think I'd much rather be going with those 3 darts and a small lay on Stradivarius. I think Yeah, I'm surprised Stradivarius is odds on. And instead of just laying him, I'd probably lay and then also back those three.
There you have it. So strong feelings against Stradivarius here, 10 to 11 at the moment. But given that Mike and Andy are privy to the kind of things that might in future, normally the market corrects itself by the time they go. So that could be an indication that Stradivarius might be a bit bigger on the day. And Search for a Song, as Mike said, second favourite, 365, Betfair, Sportsbook, Paddy's, Bet Victor, or 6-1. But Sovereign, the one that you gave a really good word for, and 20 to 1 is with Betfair, Sportsbook, and Paddy's. Interesting to note that quite a few firms are a fair bit shorter. Unibet 12 to 1, Bet365 10 to 1, Hills 11 to 1. So that 20s may not stick around. Spanish Mission 16 to 1 with Hills, as you mentioned. So adding Dawn Patrol to the mix there, that's 4 to take on the favourite with. So we've done quite well in the first. Fingers crossed one of them wins, and we're not looking at Stradivarius absolutely hosing up on early on Saturday afternoon. On then to the sprint, and Dream of Dreams is the 15 to 8 favourite ahead of One Master at 6 to 1. Oxted is 7 to 1. Starman 10 to 1. Art Power 12s. Glen Shiel 14s. Lope Fernandez 14s. Kate Byron 16s. 20 to 1 bar. Mike will mix it up here. 17 runners it stands with a 15 to 8 favourite in Dream of Dreams. Are we looking to take on the Fav here, and what with?
I don't think so. I'm not sure whether I'd be keen to be having a big bet at the price he is, given he's got a draw in 16, but I wouldn't want to be taking him on. I think Oxhead's a very useful horse, but I'm not sure about him on the ground. And to be fair, I'm not entirely sure that he definitely wants a very testing 6 furlongs either. He'd probably be the one that I'd want to take on. And One Master, obviously, given she had a very hard race in France not long ago. I think there's probably some each way value. If you could get like a horse like Starman, for example, who's still got a bit to find, but probably not as much to find as it looks like there is on the market. I think they'll probably go hard with Art Power, but he's drawn in the middle, and then Happy Power as well, drawn in stall 1. I think it's too much of a trappy race for me. Lope Fernandez is another who now they have reverted to sprinting. He could easily be very interesting here, but I wouldn't want to be taking Dream of Dreams on. Lope Fernandez and Starman probably make the most appeal to me at those double figure prices.
Lope Fernandez 14 to 1, Starman 10 to 1. Worth pointing out as well that at the moment, obviously, we're recording this at about 20 past 1 on Thursday, so the markets are kind of reforming as we speak. But a couple of bookies have stuck their neck out with some each way enhanced offers. You've got 4 places from Betfair and Paddy Power and Bet Victor, and Sky Bet already out with 5 as well. So it might be worth just keeping your powder dry until Saturday, seeing what place terms are on offer if you are going to side with one of those. Andy, which one of them is the one that you want to be siding with?
Well, this is the race I'm probably more referring to, and I think there might well be a shock because you've only got to look at the last 3 winners. Labrisa Breeze 10 to 1, Sands of Mali also a big price when he won 2 years ago, and 33 to 1 Don Juan Triumphant last year. The thing that those 3 all had in common is that they're all previous Ascot winners, most of them over the course and distance. I do think that is very relevant in this race. And there's only like 4 or 5 this year that actually fall into that criteria, which kind of like makes me believe that we can probably get half a result here. Now, Dream of Dreams, amazingly, he's not one of them. He's never won at the track, albeit he's run well in defeat here on a couple of occasions. I think he's finished second twice behind Blue Point. And, of course, Hello Yumzane in the Diamond Jubilee. But the fact is that he's come unstuck here more times than he's obviously won. And he's also run appallingly in this race 2 years running on ground that he absolutely loves. I think he's beat 2 horses home in the last 2 renewals. So, again, good luck if you want to take 7 or 4, 2 to 1 about this chap. Now, I know he's improved subsequently. This year's form, he looks a totally different horse to the one we've seen in previous years. But that is alarm bells ringing at the back of my mind. I want everything in my favour. If I'm back in a horse ground at the back end of the season in a Group 1, that's a 2 to 1 poke. So, yeah, I'd be looking to take him on as well as Stradivarius in the first. So what we're left with, like I say, the devil in me, he's looking like a completely outside the box here. But I don't think there's a great deal between literally the whole 17 in a race like this. Where the draw and little fractions are very, very minute. Take for instance the Silver Woke Wokingham and the Diamond Jubilee all run on the same course and distance on the same day. And if you look at those two respective time figures and their sectional times as well, with the handicappers compared to the Group 1 horses, there's absolutely zero in it. For instance, Chief of Chiefs, who won the very first race, the Silver Wokingham, clocked an almost identical sectional to Hello Yumzane when he won the Group 1. So, as I said, be prepared for a shock in this race. If something won it like a Chief of Chiefs, you couldn't think, where on earth did that come from? Because the data's there to tell you that these horses are capable of running way outside what the odds suggest. And I do think Charlie Fellows has got not only half a chance with Chief of Chiefs, but the one right down the foot of the well, not foot of the weights, but the foot of the page, Onassis. She does strike me as being a horse who could easily cause a massive upset here. A, she likes the track. B, that Hayley Turner rides this track better than most. She comes here in unbelievably good form, like a lot of Charlie Fellows horses do. Charlie had an absolute desperate season. I think this horse won at Royal Ascot, was the only winner in June, July and August for Charlie. He had a wretched time. Then now in good form. This horse won last time and at good, as I said. And amazingly, if you go back and look at Onassis' sectional when she won the Sandringham Handicap over a mile on soft ground 2 days before Hello Yumzane won the Diamond Jubilee, Hello Yumzane's sectional was 36.4 and Onassis clocked 36.2 on soft ground, and it dried out to good on the weekend. So this filly's got an amazing turn of foot, and I think she's better than what her current rating suggests. She's drawn in stall 5, which means that she'll be racing hopefully on the far side of the track, which will be the best place. And she's 50-1 currently with 2 or 3 firms as far as I can see. So I've got a lot of respect for a lot of horses in this race, and they all, we could all make cases out for Glenshield and Sonala, One Master, of course, who was unlucky in this race last year. But I'm looking at prices, and I just think she's a ridiculous price of 50-1. She'll definitely be going up on Saturday.
Charlie Fellows coming into the Champion Sprint Stakes double-handed with a 50-1 and 100-1 shot. Absolutely love it. Onassis 50-1 with Bet Victor and Unibet. Chief of Chiefs 100-1 with William Hill, Bet Victor, Unibet and Ball Sports. Andy, you mentioned there were 3. I thought you said that had won at the track and had run decent sectionals. Was there another one there, or are those the only 2?
Yeah, and you've got Chief of Chiefs, you've got One Master, as I mentioned. Onassis is another. Speaking Colours is the other one, but he's kind of form's dipped a little bit. Art Power, of course, he's another one, but he's he won over 5 furlongs, and he finished 4th in the Haydock Sprint as well. So, as I said, cases can be made out for so many of these. I like Onassis. I think she's a good filly, and albeit this is a big step up from Group 3 company to of course a Group 1. She's not proven in this company, but neither were Duan Triumphant. And all the other horses I've just mentioned before, they won in this race, in the past. So prepared for a shock, and if it is to be one, then maybe Onassis could be the one to provide it.
You'll hear my scream on the TV from the 15th green. Okay, on to the third race of the day then, and it's the Phillies and Mares. We've got Wonderful Tonight 7-2, Dame Malliot 9-2, Antonia de Vega 5-1, Even So 6-1. So those 4 at the top of the market there, and then a big drop in terms of prices with Madai and Gold Wand and Frankly Darling, Thundering Knights all 14-1, 16-1, Bar 12 run as it stands at the moment. Sky Bet the only firm paying 4 places as it stands. Mike, we'll come to you first here. What do you make of this one?
I think it's probably a bad race. It's a bit of a tricky one. A bad race.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
how did you make that out?
I just don't think there was anything that good in here.
If we were around the table here at oddschecker HQ, we'd be coming to blows now.
Oh God! What have they got to do? You got about 3 or 4 Group 1 winners in this race.
We're on the right race, aren't we? The Phillies and Mares race.
Yeah.
I'll stand by it. Yeah.
Okay, we'll give Mike first run, and then you can come and sweep in afterwards, Andy. Have the last word.
Yeah, I mean, you do get races where horses just, we're talking about a Group 1 where I don't think any of the fillies are, I don't think anything's better than like 114 in here. I'd be pushing it to even get that high. My top rated is 100. Magical's obviously there, but bar her, I think we're looking at 111 is my top rated for all of these fillies. I don't think it's a very good race, but we are, and Antonia de Vega would be near enough my top rated.
Antonio Vega 5-1 currently, kind of with all the bookies up on oddschecker.
I just going through it. I mean, I'm just going over it to check out I haven't missed something, but I don't think I have. I think I don't think it's the best race to myself. Wonderful Tonight was, she won well the other day, but that's 1 mile 6 in heavy ground. I'd be keen to take on anything, as I've said, that ran an art weekend. I mean, she was well held in a Group 1 before that over a mile 4. I really don't see this good race though, to be honest. Dame Malliot, and even so, I mean, the horse constantly beat when they try and take on the colts, and even with the weight allowance. So I don't think it's a great race. Antonio de Vega hasn't had much racing, but she's owned by somebody who's incredibly smart, and I imagine this has been the target for her for a very long time. She did run okay in the race last year, not good enough form to win this. But I do think that she hadn't had the best of seasons in terms of preparation last year. And I think that this race will have been her target all year. She's shown she's been in very good form all season. She's won both her races. I thought she was impressive the other day when beating Alpinista, who'd obviously been second to Love on her start before that. I think she should be favourite for me. And I think she's got a massive chance, especially with Wonderful Tonight having such a hard race last time. Dame Malliot was well held in 2 Group 1s on her 2 starts before that. She beat Communique before that. I don't think he's won a race all season. He's run about 15 times. I stand by. I think this is a poor Group 1, and Antonio de Vega is a useful enough filly who, if she runs to what I have her at 111, I think that will be enough to win the race.
Right, Andy, let's keep it civil. Go next.
I don't think it's a. I don't know how you could say it's a bad race. I mean, like I say, if we're dealing with horses that haven't won Group 1s, then fair enough. But you got an Irish Oaks winner in here. Wonderful Tonight won a Group 1 last time in a good time figure, beat a good field. We're only really missing Love, to be fair, and Magical. But they, we know what happened to Love, and we've got Magical in another race. But that aside, these are top class fillies, no doubt about that. Wonderful Tonight, I do like her. I put her up, didn't I, when she won in France last time out, basically because the ground was heavy, and that's what she wants. So if it does stay soft, heavy in places as it is at the moment, and that sort of like moisture and dew keeps the ground as it is, and I very much think she's the one to beat. She finished 5th the time before in the Vermeil. Now, the Vermeil was the best of those ARC trials, wasn't it? I remember talking about that when Tanawa won. But in that race was Wonderful Tonight, Dame Malliot, and even so, and Laburnum as well. They all finished in a bit of a heat behind the eventual winner. And of course, Tanawa went on to frank the form herself with a win over at Longchamp on Art Weekend as well. So collaterally, these are the 3 or 4 you need to be concentrating on. Now, Wonderful Tonight, as Mike said, did have a very hard race in winning that mile 6 race. So that might have just sucked the life out of her, arguably. Although I do think, she is the most effective under these conditions. So if you're looking at taking one of those or maybe 2 out of that race in France, I'd certainly give Dame Malliot another exception, if you like. She's definitely knocking at the door in a race of this now. She's a big, strong filly as well. If you look at her, she's a big, powerful, masculine type. That doesn't have any problem handling heavy ground. She had to cut out her running at Longchamp when she got beat last time, and I'm not absolutely entirely convinced that that's the way you want to be riding, A, her, and B, implementing those tactics to Ascot. As I said, riding a race on the front on that round track at Ascot, it's almost impossible to make all. So if Connections decide to take a pull and give her a half a chance, then I think she's got a decent chance of upholding the form with all those horses she finished in front of last time out at Longchamp. And I'd also give Laburnum a chance as well. I'm not sure who's riding that. Obviously, I know Brian's got 2 left in it, and maybe Ryan Moore could ride one of them. But if he does, odds around about 16-20 to 1 for her would look rather big, because she's only got a little bit to find with the likes of Even So and Wonderful Tonight. So that's probably the angle I'm approaching this race in. If I can get an each way price about Dame Malliot, I'll be comfortable with that for that finishing in the first 3. and I do think Laburnum's slightly overpriced.
So Dame Marriott 9-2 with Hills, Betfair, BetVictor, Paddy's, Betfred, Betway, and Boyle Sports, and Genting Bet as well. And Laburnum pretty much 18-1 across the board as well. So glad we got through that one. It got a bit awkward there for a second, but we're moving on now to the QE2. The news yesterday was that Cameco doesn't run, and that means Palace Pier is 8-11 odds-on favourite. The Revenant is 9-2, Circus Maximus 9-1, Nazif 12-1, Century Dream 18-1, 25-1 Bar, still 14 in there, so plenty. A big prices down towards the bottom. Andy, given that this seems to be following a bit of a trend for you, can we assume that you're looking to take on Palace Pier here?
Yeah, I must admit, of all the short price favourites that we're going to talk about, I think this one's probably not necessarily the most bomb-proof, but he's the one who I think, yeah, right, if he won, fair enough. Because he was brilliant, wasn't he, last time out when he won in Deauville? Clocked a good number. And the fact that he won on heavy ground and quickened up the way that he did, rubber stabbed him as being the best miler, arguably, in Europe at the moment, because he's winning the St James's Palaces when he flat-footed and scampered away from Pinatubo. He's definitely the best form as it stands coming into this race anyway, let alone his run last time out. So he's very hard to knock, Palace Pier. He's won at the track. He's won on heavy ground. Albeit his win was on the round track, of course. But, Frankie knows the straight track better than anyone else. And he'll be trained to the minute. He's had a fairly light campaign as well. That's another thing I like coming into this meeting. You don't want something as a rule of thumb to be having, hard knocking races one after the other coming into this race. And that leads me to the Revenant, who looks the only possible danger as far as I could see. And at the price is 9-2. If we can get 5-1, maybe on Saturday, 3, maybe 4 places, that'd be the way I'd look with him. We mentioned, didn't we, before the podcast and when we did that art weekend, didn't we, Mike? He was 12-1, wasn't he, anti-post? Hopefully one or two of the listeners managed to get hold of that, because he won as anticipated over that weekend. And that was seen, as we thought, as a prep run, workmanlike rather than spectacular, but Connections would have been delighted with that. Had a nice little blow after the back of a 350-day break. But he comes here fresh, and it looks as though Connections means business. They had 3 or 4 runs building up to his second last year, but this year only 1. This is very much their target. They've trained him for this specifically, and he's drawn right next to Palace Pier as well in stall 6. So Pierre Charles Boudot will obviously have a good look at where Frankie is, and the two of them will sort of be locking horns, throughout the last 2 furlongs, and which one kicks first. But I see it as a match between the two at a massive price. I suppose you could half give Escobar a bit of a chance, given that he won the Balmoral last year on heavy ground over the mile, and of course he beat Lord North as well, who has done the form no harm since. He's like a 66-1 shot, so he's one for the ones looking outside the box completely. But I'd be all over the Revenant. He's probably my each way banker of the whole meeting.
Escobar is 100-1, Andy. If anyone has an Assis Escobar each way double, it's probably not going to return any money. But hopefully we'll see. Maybe we'll get lucky there. But as you mentioned, the Revenant 9-2 is with BetVictor and Betfred and Boyle Sports. All firms currently 3 places. Mike, what do you make of this? Again, do you think Palace Pier is, of all the shorties, the most likely, and who there do you reckon might represent some each way value?
I haven't really focused on the each way value because I think Palace Pier will win. Really, if he's still 8-11 on Saturday, then I'll be backing him at 8-11. I think he's probably the best. He's not far off being as good as anything certainly in Europe in terms of ability. Over any distance, really. I think he's the real deal. So I wouldn't want to oppose him. I think he's got to run below his best to not win this. And the Revenant, obviously, he's the obvious one, but just clutching a bit, really, in my opinion. Well, he's obviously there. If you can get on each way, superb. But I'm not really going to be able to get on each way. So,
do you think Palace Pier will likely still be 8-11 on the day?
I think so. I think he'll get pushed out. He could even be a bit bigger given the amount of runners. At something like 10, 11 a.m., he might be a little bit bigger. I think he's very good. I think he's much better than these. And if he was 8-11, I will be backing him. Nice
and simple there from Mike, just point and shoot, basically. 8-11 Palace Pier at the moment. That is with, I think it's Paddy Power. Just trying to get it back up. Paddy Power and Betfair Sportsbook. But as Mike says, might ease out a little bit. It was 4-5 yesterday when Kamiko came out, shortened up into 4-6. Now back out to 8-11. So you might be worth biding your time. On to the Champion Stakes, and Magical is 7-4, Mishriff 7-2, Lord North 8-1, Skeletti 10-1, Adaib 10-1, Pile Driver 14-1 alongside Japan. Bit of blue for Japan, actually, looking at it now. Hill's still best price at 14s, but 9-1 elsewhere. Serpentine 16-1, and then 3 at 66, 80, and 100. That's Extra Elusive, Desert Encounter, and San Donato. Might come back to you here. Who do you fancy for the champion?
Probably Mishriff. I think Magical is a bit vulnerable when she really gets into. I know she won the race last year, so this is sort of it's hard to really knock her, and she is incredibly good. But I think I'd rather have an improving 3-year-old against her this time. She sets a very good standard, and she probably should be favourite. But I think Mishriff's been brilliantly handled this year. I'd have done the same thing if I owned him in Missing the Arc, knowing that this was going to be 10 furlongs on soft ground, and perfect conditions for him. Really, a real test over 10 as well. And I think I would just be siding with him at around 7-2. I think he's a very good horse. He's obviously been primed for today, what will be today, and I think he's got a very, very good chance.
Andy?
Yeah, I couldn't disagree, Mike, with his assessment of Mishriff. He's a smashing horse, isn't he? He's been one of the sort of pivotal horses that form pivots around throughout the entire season. That race at Newmarket that he won early on in the year, that 1.25 mile race when he beat Vulcan Star, worked out amazingly well. It was, we thought at the time that Koenig was the second coming, and he got absolutely battered. But so many horses out of that race franked the form subsequently. Even horses like the First King and Luncey's way beaten miles, won out of the race. So it was no great shock that he managed to win, obviously, in Chantilly the time after the French Derby. And then when he won last time at Deauville, he was very good that day. But interestingly, on that same card, and this one I'm going to get onto now, obviously I've been doing the French form and some sectionals and overall times and stuff like that, just to keep my eye in with regards to maybe big and better races further down the line. And the day that Mishriff won, he clocked a very slow time. And on the same card, Skeletti won over exactly the same course and distance. And it was that run that prompted me to back Sotsas for the Arc de Triomphe, because I thought Skeletti was very, very good when he beat Sotsas that day. And interestingly, even off the back of a much stronger time figure, Skeletti's closing sectional was exactly the same as Mishriff. So Mishriff should have been beating Skeletti from 3 out further, because obviously they've gone slow and then they've quickened up. So Skeletti's run the same section off the back of a stronger gallop. So put it this way, if you fancy Mishraff, which obviously I do as well, I'm not poo-pooing Mike's claims, but you've certainly got to give Skeletti or afford him a huge amount of credit as well. He's got a nice draw as well around the inside. Hopefully, he won't get sort of bogged down too much around the inside. But he should get a lovely run round. And if he handles Ascot, that's the only thing we don't know with him, whether we'll handle the track or not. But I think on pure ability and what I've got him doing on times anyway, he's his equal of Mishraff, and similar to Mishraff as well. He's had a very light campaign with this race very much in mind. So again, I'm looking at a double figure price for this fella. I think he's going to be underestimated because not too many young UK punters will know him, and they won't know what level of form he's got based on any numbers. But like I say, I've done the work for them, if you like. So I could tell you that he's as good as Mishraff. So at that prices, I'd probably go with him.
So Mishriff is a 7-2, Skeletti 10-1, Bet365, Betfair, BetVictor, Paddy's, Betfred, and the others. Just got one more race to preview. But before we do that, before we move on to the Balmoral Handicap, we have a giveaway for the watchers on YouTube. Our friends at Timeform have given us 3 copies of their Horses to Follow book for the 2020-2021 jump season. If you want one, just comment on the YouTube video and we'll select 3 lucky winners at random. So all you have to do is just, if you're watching this now, just comment below and that will enter you in with a chance of winning one of the 3 Timeform horses to follow for the jump season in the coming campaign. So just comment below and best of luck. Finally then, the Balmoral, as I mentioned there. Andy, will come to you first here, and Raik is the 5-1 favourite ahead of Tempest at 8-1. King Ottaka is 9-1. Keats 9-1. And Jord 11-1, 12-1. A few of them there: Raising Sand, Bell Rock, and River Nymph 16-1 bar. The lucky last, Andy. Give us a winner.
Well, yeah, Raik has been very much the anti-pose gamble, hasn't he? Double figure quotes into sort of around about 5-1 now. He was, I thought, quite impressive when he won last time out. He did actually something against the grain. Against sort of how conventional wisdom goes at Ascot, in the sense he won from virtue the front last time out. I don't normally like front runners at Ascot on the straight track, but he managed to buck that trend. That was over 7, but he's definitely better over a mile as well. So, God knows what he's going to do over an extra furlong. So, if you've missed the price, that would be the only reason, like my reason, that I'd probably not back him at 5-1. I'd be looking for a little bit of double figure value. There's one horse that hasn't run at the track, and I'm a stickler for Ascot form, as you know, but he's actually got the run style tailor-made for this venue, and it's significant that Jessica Harrington's brought over a horse called Nord. Now, I've been keeping an eye on this fella all season. If there's an unluckier horse in training than Nord over in Ireland, I haven't met one, because he should have won both of his 2 Premier Handicaps at the Galway Festival. He got terrible draws and terrible runs through in both of those 2 occasions. He finished second on each run. He then went to the Curragh and completely missed the start in the Irish Cambridge and finished at never near a 5th under top weight. And then last time out at Listowel, he was again badly drawn, and he was last coming out the back straight. And anyone who knows Listowel, it's like a greyhound track. And if you're towards a rig, you've got 0 chance of making up the ground. The fact that he managed to get within 3 lengths of subsequent Group 2 winner Lady Wannabe just tells you how good this fella is. A straight track over a mile on soft ground, he's absolutely ideal for him. And he's a deep closer in the sense that he'll miss the break and then come through horses. Tom Marquande has been booked. He's got a fair draw in stall 4. Presume they race over on the far side rail. I think he's a big player. And the other one I'd throw into the mix as well is a horse right down the bottom. He snuck in, number 20 on the race card, Alternative Fact, who was a very good third in the Silver Hunt Cup behind Sir Busco race, which worked out really well throughout the course of the season. But that was on good ground, and he doesn't like really good ground, but he likes soft ground. If you go back and look at his run at York last time out, again, another horse who made an amazing amount of ground up from the back of the field. He did the best sectional in that Ouzo race only last weekend. So he's holding his form together really well. He likes this track. He likes the ground. And Frankie Dettori's been booked as well. So he's drawn the other side towards the near side. So if you like, and you're not too sure, one from the high stall, low stall Nord. And if you want one from a high stall, Alternative Fact. Round about 11-1 the one and 20-1 the other.
20-1 Alternative Fact with Hills, Bet Victor, and 10 bets, and then Nord 11-1, Bet 365, Bet Victor, and Unibet best prices. Mike, over to you.
I don't disagree really. I think Andy's covered the 3 that I probably would have mentioned as well. Right? I mean, I didn't think it was the strongest of races last time when he won over 7. I think he might be about the right price now. I think Nord's a great shout. I mean, the only worry with him is given that if they do all decide to go over to that far rail, if he does miss the break, Tom Marquand's going to have some job plotting his way through the field. But he's 11-1, and that might be in the price. I think he's a very good shout. You probably want to watch a few races before you get stuck into that race, given the track's normally a bit narrower, and they might stay stand side, some of them, because it is a long way to go from stall 22. So I don't think he's not going to go off 6-1 Nord or something. He'd probably be the one as well that I'd be a little bit keen on, but I'd be wanting to see a few races to sort of see what was going to happen. I'd be a little bit worried if they were all going to go far side. If it didn't look a bias and they were going to stay out the sand side, then they'd probably be a bit more confident that he might get the clearer run through. But yeah, I didn't have much to add there. I thought Nord's a very good shout.
There you go, to double tick there for Nord at 11-1. That brings us to an end of our Champions Day preview. Hopefully a couple of winners in there, maybe even a 3-figure winner if Andy is right, and Charlie Fellows will have a lovely Saturday evening if you're right about the sprint. But thanks as ever both to Andy and to Mike for joining us today. We'll be speaking to them both again very, very soon. If you've enjoyed this, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel or to our podcast on any podcast platform. And please, most importantly, do download the oddschecker app. It is the best place for all best prices, bookie offers, free bets, and all of Andy's tips and other tipsters across a range of sports. It's the best place to get all of them. But most importantly, please do gamble responsibly and enjoy Champions Day on Saturday.